Ooh, baby, make it 4 in a row plus a 1-year rivalry happening this weekend. We'll dive in today.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Gopher fans? You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We're talking about the Illinois W that the Gophers got this weekend on the road versus a ranked Illinois school, number 24, no more, because the Gophers take them down. The Gophers made it 4 straight wins with a 25-17 victory on the road versus a then-ranked number 24 Illinois team. And this is a game where Minnesota scored every single quarter. And that's not something we've been used to. Now, yes, the offense has had some moments. Yes, there's been some bright spots, but scoring every quarter was not something that's been happening for this Gophers team. So you love to see that progress. You love to see that step up. The defense still held strong. So we're going to talk about that Illinois matchup. We're going to talk about a 1-year rivalry against Rutgers this upcoming season, why I think it should be looked at that way. And then finally, 3 players we need to step up in that matchup. So if you are interested, if you are ready to talk Gophers each and every day, then be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss any of your daily Gophers content. So like I said, Illinois loses to Minnesota. Minnesota makes it 4 straight wins. And this is a game where Minnesota scored every quarter. Minnesota led most of the game, but there was a brief moment in the fourth quarter where Illinois takes the lead, and you could fear all of Gophers Nation just have their holding their breath moment. Oh no, not again. It can't happen this way. Please, God, don't let this happen. And luckily, it didn't happen. Not versus Bielema. Once again, Minnesota came back, they reclaimed the lead, and they finished off a big win. Minnesota's first win against Coach Brett Bielema in 11 tries now. And you kept hearing that throughout the game on the broadcast. Brett Bielema, 10-0 against the Gophers. With the Wisconsin Badgers and with Illinois, he's never lost against Minnesota. He's never lost to Minnesota, blah, blah, blah. Well, he has now. He has now. The Minnesota Golden Gophers get a dub against Brett Bielema, against a ranked opponent, and it just felt so good. So good. So good. Now, Max Brosmer, quarterback for the Golden Gophers, less efficient in this game than what we had seen him on his hot streak. Only 59% completion percentage in this game, but he was still impressive in this game. He still stayed mistake-free in this game. He didn't get lost in the sauce and in the window dressing of the Illinois defense that has caught many a quarterbacks off guard with the different looks that they show pre-snap to post-snap. So overall, Max Brosmer showed his intellect once again. He showed his ability to remain calm in the pocket once again, something that this Gophers team just hasn't seen in quite some time. 213 yards, 1 touchdown, great checks throughout the game, including a massive check in the game-winning score of this game, checking out of, I believe it was going to be a tush push. Then it looks like it's a run to the left. Nope, it's a swing out, basically a fake pitch, and he kicks it out to the tight end for a wide open touchdown. Things you love to see. Things you absolutely love to see. Checked into it. It was a great call. It was a great draw up by Greg Harbaugh Jr., who I have been more than critical of on the season. And I was just really impressed by the Gophers in this outing. And I think Max Brosmer showed he was the better of the 2 quarterbacks by a wide margin, if you ask me. Now, overall, meanwhile, you go to the ground game. You talk about Darius Taylor. This game was won for the Gophers offensively because of Darius Taylor. Plain and simple. The ground game won this game. Darius Taylor was dynamic. 189 all-purpose yards with a touchdown. Only credited with 3 missed tackles forced, but if you actually used your eyeballs, come on, PFF, get on the grind, you would see that he had more than 3 missed tackles forced. So overall, Darius Taylor has just been a guy who makes contact miss, gets past the first one, and creates extra yardage. He also caught all 9 of his targets. He caught 9 targets, 9 receptions on those targets. And he is second in the nation in receptions for a running back. Second in the entire country of multiple teams with multiple running backs. You got 133 FBS schools with probably like 5 to 8 scholarship running backs on their rosters, and Darius Taylor is number 2 in the nation in receptions with 43 catches. So that just goes to show you Darius Taylor, not only is he him, but Darius Taylor is one of the most deadly dual threat running backs in the country, and that cannot be emphasized enough, because you look to the NFL game, you look at what is getting it done, what is making you a valuable asset as a running back. You look at your Saquon Barkleys, you look at your Christian McCaffreys, you look at even Josh Jacobs, who can get it done in the passing game. Being a dual threat running back is everything. Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, if you can catch the ball and be dynamic, and you can be a dynamic runner with your vision and contact balance and making missed tackles happen, you're going to get drafted. And Darius Taylor is on track to be the next great Gophers running back, and maybe the best Gophers running back since Lawrence Maroney and Marion Barber in the NFL. I think he could put his name into that conversation, but it all comes to health and staying healthy and remaining in that front as well, because he is very productive. He is very talented. We've seen both those things for 2 years now, but he has to stay healthy, and that is a big key. Then you move on to the wide receivers in this game. Daniel Jackson, Elijah Spencer continue to make huge plays in huge moments. I think Elijah Spencer had 3 third down conversions in this one. Big time catches. These two have been big time for the Gophers all season, and that did not slow down in this one. And I don't think it's going to slow down for the rest of the season. Now, with that, Daniel Jackson officially entered the top 5 in Gophers program history in receiving yards. He passed both Rashad Bateman and Ernie Wheelwright and moved into number 5 on the Gophers all time. He could move into number 4 in the next game or two. He is only 177 yards away from that, currently held by Tutu Atwell. And then he also has an outside shot of getting to number 3 with 414 yards needed over the next 4 games, which is currently held by Gophers great Ron Johnson, who you can find with me every Saturday on the live Gophers postcast over on Locked On Minnesota Sports. So be sure to hit subscribe over there too. But we'll probably definitely have to ask his opinion on Daniel Jackson approaching his record total and how he feels about all that over there. But overall, Daniel Jackson, super impressive. I love what I've seen from him in his time as a Gopher, but especially over these last 2 years. So impressive. Such a high IQ player. Such a difference maker for the Gophers. Route running, sure hands, you name it, he's got it. Daniel Jackson is a great Gophers receiver, and he put his name into some historic territory with the Golden Gophers this past weekend. Then you flip it. You flip it to the defense. We're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball. The Gophers stood strong, especially early. They forced a 3-and-out right away. They had a fumble on the next drive. Then they had a 5-play punt. They really kept Illinois on their heels. That said, Illinois closed the first half with some more positive momentum, getting a field goal on one drive, then a touchdown, and then moving the field in 19 seconds, but missing a field goal. So they were really generating momentum to close out the first half. Then you come into the second half, and the Gophers defense was almost locked down. They had a punt one drive, a punt one drive, then they had a touchdown drive, and that was with Justin Wally out and not on the field for a little bit. Then they come back and they have a turnover on downs on one of the most critical late stages of the game. And then when Illinois is trying to move the ball up the field to try and tie the game, they force a fumble within the red zone and call ball game. So there were some clutch moments by this defense, including the first fumble forced on Altmaier. He was running off to the right side. All of a sudden, he gets hit by Justin Wally, Danny Sturgow. He gets held up and basically flipped. The ball pops out while he's getting flipped, and they get the forced fumble, and all of a sudden they're flipping the field and trying to get points on the board. So overall, that was a huge momentous occasion on this game. And then, of course, you can't talk about momentous occasions on this defense without talking about Jaw Joyner at the end of the game, who was getting held like crazy. I mean, some of the worst, most blatant holding you have seen, which Jaw Joyner has felt time and time again this year. You see it again in the critical stages of this Illinois game. And he says, I do not care. You can be 300 pounds. You can be holding me down. You can be dragging my entire chest across my body. I'm getting to this quarterback, smacks the ball out of Luke Altmaier's hands, forces the fumble. Partner in crime, Danny Sturgow, gets on top of it, ball game. So overall, The defense was impressive. Anthony Smith had huge plays, huge sack in this game. Justin Wally had some big plays in coverage. Cody Lindenberg had 2 pass breakups in this game. Ethan Robinson was just playing consistent ball and having moments where he really stood up when the Gophers needed it. Overall, this defense does enough. This defense does what it needs to be one of the best defenses in the country, but also to win ball games. And you look at their numbers overall, they're 9th in the country in total defense, 14th in the country in pass defense, 36th in the country in rush defense, 12th in the country in scoring defense, 3rd in turnovers gained, and 75th in sacks. So the only real number that's down right there is the sacks number. But overall, this is a top 15 defense, plain and simple. No ifs, no ands, no buts. We are now through 9 games played, 6-3 record, heading to a 10th game in week 11. And I think the Gophers are only going to improve on those defensive numbers against this Rutgers offense. I expect them to improve on it this weekend and continue to put their case for being a top 10 defense in the country, improving it time and time again. But let's prep a little bit for this weekend because it is likely a one-year rivalry, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to tell you why that is coming up next. First, let's talk to you about our friends over at Roy, because Gophers fans, it's time to recognize our Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we have pooled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to a massive change, and with the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all the funds go to your specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free, and if the athlete transfers or they don't deliver content, you get your money back. So this week, I'm supporting Darius Taylor, 189 all-purpose yards, one of the best backs in the country, dual threat to a T, and we pitched in $100. I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Show Darius Taylor the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets up our team for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and use referral code LOCKEDON, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download Roy now. Join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support players, change the game. And while we're at it, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel, because you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Now, the FanDuel Sportsbook gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. So just go visit fanduel.com and join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Locked On. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about this Rutgers game, because I think we need to start calling this the one-year rivalry. Now, why is that? Rivalries are sacred. Rivalries are holy territory. Rivalries have trophy games. Rivalries are everything for this Gophers team, being one of the most trophy game teams in the entire country, plain and simple. So why would we want to add to it? Why would we want to throw the name rivalry at this game? I'm with you. You can't just throw that around, but this should be a one-year rivalry with Rutgers because of all the history, because of all the maybe bad blood, but crossover between these two programs. We have talked about this matchup all offseason. We have talked about this matchup heading into the season, trying not to look too far, but talking about the second half of the season and how big this game could be. Overall, we have talked about this time and time again, and now is the time where the game is coming up this weekend. And you're talking about our former quarterback won. The fan base torched him, and we were quick to abandon ship. And he has done better with his former offensive coordinator, but shades of the same errors and talks of a falling out between him and PJ Fleck, all sorts of things happening with this quarterback, with this program. There's a little bad blood in the water. Our former offensive coordinator who left us for seemingly an equal job. And all of a sudden people are like, well, they're paying him more. Okay, but the program was further down bad. So why would you leave for a program that seems to be down bad? All of a sudden, our former DC many years ago on this Rutgers team, our former starting safety many years ago on this Rutgers team, their former assistant defensive coordinator on our Gophers team. PJ is part of the Greg Schiano tree. You see all the history, you see all the crossover, you see all the potential storylines between these two programs, especially for the time being. That's why there's a whole lot of familiarity and there's a whole lot of reason this should feel like a one-year rivalry, a one-time winner takes all, having the bragging rights, having the proving you wrong, having the momentum of, see, I told you so, all happening this weekend in Piscataway as the Gophers travel to an away matchup versus the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Now, where it could play into the favor of the Gophers, you're talking about we've played them with this defensive coordinator, Joe Harris-Semiak. We've played them before, and we absolutely scorched earth on them. Mo Ibrahim, 8. This is where Zach Evans got his first big one, I think. Maybe it was Northwestern. Either way, the running game scorched Rutgers. We won huge in that matchup. I think PJ Fleck has played Rutgers 2 times in his time with the Gophers and won both of those games, looking to make it 3-0. And then you talk about another reason of why it could play to our favor. We're extremely familiar with their offense coordinator. You've done us versus us with Kirk Ciarrocca's offense many a times. And you've seen Kirk Ciarrocca's offense. It doesn't change too much. Now, he has little wrinkles. He has little nitpicky things and ways he wants to expose different defenses and things like that. But the general 85% is consistent with his offense, and the Gophers know that offense better than anyone, having seen it in 2019, having seen it again in 2022. So overall, you should be extremely familiar. On top of that, our defensive coordinator wasn't really calling the shots over at Rutgers. He was the second in command, the right-hand man of Joe Harris-Semiak. So yes, there might be some ideologies that cross over, but our defensive coordinator had been a defensive coordinator prior, and he had worked at other schools, and he has his own wrinkles. He has his own developments. He has his own philosophies, and we've been seeing those with the Gophers play out, and this defense is legit. So overall, I think that they have less exposure to what Corey Heatherman wants to do as an official defensive coordinator, which could play to the Gophers' favor. But then also something that plays into our factor, into our advantage, in my opinion, is Ethan mistakes have stayed somewhat consistent to what we've seen in his time with the Gophers and what we've seen with Rutgers. Now, not as many turnovers, and a lot of that comes from Gophers dropping balls last year, or just a very unfortunate turnover happening because of a tip pass or things like that. Like, his turnover numbers weren't all on him last year, but his completion percentage was on him. And we see that same completion percentage dragging him down with this Rutgers team. Now, he only has 5 interceptions on the year. Max Brosmer has 4. They're in a similar playing field, but at the same time, Max Brosmer, very efficient, huge, high completion numbers. And on top of that, some of his interceptions have been somewhat fluky on this year, 2 of them. So really, he only has 2 real bad interceptions on the year. So that's everything that could be playing into Minnesota's favor on that one. Not to mention that Rutgers has been on a downswing on the season, which I called heading into this year. I said, last year they had a really good year, but who's to say that wasn't the anomaly and not that they're going to do the same exact thing? Nobody wanted to listen to me on that one, but we're seeing it happen in real time. On the flip side, the Gophers are on a hot streak, a high upswing of sorts. Now, the North Carolina game still hurts me, still cuts me deep, but maybe we got the disappointing game out of the way in the first game of the season, and now we're seeing the Gophers get it together. Maybe that's the better way to go in this front. Would you rather see the Gophers finish the rest of these games with wins and all of a sudden they're an 8-9 win team on the season and you got the heartbreak out in the first week of the season? I'll take that, I guess. But overall, the Gophers are on the upswing and you like to see it. Now, where it could play wrong for Minnesota, playing towards Minnesota's old tendencies and PJ himself, I think Kirk Ciarrocca probably has a couple things he's been keeping deep in the bag, deep in the saddle, ready for this specific matchup. We're going to see if he can capitalize on that. On top of that, we've seen Ethan's arm talent before. He has the arm talent to be great, but the consistency is what has hurt him. So maybe he has a little extra motivation in this game. Maybe he wants to be at his best. Maybe he wants to prove this staff wrong, prove this fan base wrong, and get an I told you so moment. That could be some extra fire under his butt for this matchup. Their running back is really, really good, and he could present problems for Minnesota. Coach Fleck in his pressers this week talked about he reminds me a lot of Mo Ibrahim, except for he might be a little faster. So if you're talking about a faster version of Mo Ibrahim, that's dangerous in its own right. And then in the Kirk Shiraka system, who we saw helped Mo Ibrahim absolutely dominate in his final season with the Gophers. Overall, that's a nasty combo. And we saw Monangai kill it last year with Rutgers. He's been doing really good with Rutgers again this year. And if he is killing, if he is thriving, if he is hitting, that also opens up the RPO game, which is Kirk Shiraka's bread and butter. So there's where this game could go wrong. And it is something the Gophers are going to have to hone in on, especially not allowing missed tackles. But the final thing I want to look at is a QB comparison here. Now, Max Brosmer, PFF grade of 86.1, passing grade of 86.5, big time throws. He has 8 on the year. Turnover worthy plays, he has 5 on the year. And he has 1,989 passing yards on 68.2 completion percentage with 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 19 times. He has 15 drops by his pass catchers and an NFL passer rating of 96.6. Real solid numbers overall. Ethan Kaliak-McInnes, PFF grade of 79.2, passing grade of 76.8, big time throws 12, 11 turnover worthy plays, 1,650 yards passing, 54.1% completion, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 14 sacks, 17 drops, and a 79.1 NFL pass rating. So overall, you're seeing Max Brosmer be more efficient, make more NFL worthy or level plays in decision making, having a higher completion percentage, having higher yardage. He's winning in those categories. Touchdowns, winning in that category. Interceptions, fairly similar across the board. But Max Brosmer is taking more sacks. The drops have been pretty consistent across both lines. But the biggest difference for me is the passing grade. Max Brosmer is playing at a high level, above average level, a good, almost elite level in the country with an 86.1 and 86.5. Ethan Kaliak-McInnes is still playing above average, 79.2, PFF grade 76.8, passing grade. But overall, he still puts the ball in harm's way. 11 turnover-worthy plays. And that's where Minnesota can capitalize this weekend, being the number 3 team in the entire nation when it comes to turnovers gained. This should be an opportunity to continue to build on those numbers. But he also has the big-time arm. He has the big-time moments. 12 big-time throws to Max Brosmer's 8. We know Max Brosmer doesn't have this huge cannon of an arm. It all comes from his decision-making. It all comes from his progressions and getting through his reads quickly. It all comes from the IQ level along with the precise passing. That's the difference. These are 2 completely different types of quarterback, and we're going to see them in their styles this weekend. This mini rivalry is going to be a big one for the Gophers, and it can help the Gophers make it 5 in a row and 7 wins on the season. But we're going to need a bit more from a few more players. Who has to step up? That's what we're talking about coming up next. First, let's talk about friend of the show, ZBiotics, because ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not the dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. So pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this product. And overall, just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you will feel your best tomorrow. So I don't drink myself, but anytime I have told my friends about some of these, all of a sudden they're like, yo, I should have been trying this back when we were in college, bro. What is happening? Why didn't you tell me about this before? And so everybody's like, this is the spot to be. You're definitely going to want to give it a try. So give pre-alcohol a try. And when you do it, you're going to know after you have your first drink and then you go out and you have your fun, all of a sudden tomorrow you are going to feel a lot better just making sure that ZBiotics is your first drink. So step 1, drink the pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. doesn't always happen that way. But step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. So go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. So ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. All right, Gophers fans, we're going to talk about 4 players, not 3. I put 3 in the headline, but we're going to talk about 4 players that need to step up. The first one, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. The first one that we have to talk about is Coy Parrish. Now, you might be like, whoa, Kane, my guy. Slow down. Coy Parrish, Coy Wonder, that's our dude. Take it back. And I'm with you. This is probably a bit unfair of me because he has been an absolute dog for this team. But this Illinois game, it needed a bit more energy at times. It needed a bit of that swell of Coy Wonder, and we never really got it. Never defensively, never in the return game. And that's not to say he played bad, but we just didn't have that extra oomph. We didn't have that one it factor play. We didn't have that one big hit. We didn't have that one big return. We didn't have the turnover. And that's fine. It's not always going to happen. He's a true freshman. He has been playing out of his mind. But we're going to want that in these next couple games against Rutgers, especially. I think he can get a turnover in this game, but especially against Penn State. That's going to be a game we need that Coy swagger. We need that Coy energy. So we need him to step up over these next few weeks. Again, nothing disrespectful to him. Another player we need to step up, Le'Meke Brockington. I need to see more from Brockington in every single aspect. He has had 3 plays on the season that I've been like, there he is. But most of the year, it's been a bit lackluster. Now, one of the strengths of Brockington is his ability to be a force as a run blocker, as a wide receiver as well. But in the Illinois game, he graded at a 37.9 in that area, which is very, very bad. Brockington will have 1 year left starting next year. And we're losing both Daniel Jackson and Elijah Spencer, who have been the entire receiving production of this team for the most part, aside from Darius Taylor. So we're losing both those guys. Brockington's going to have a year left, but the way Minnesota has refused to use some of their young guys, Kendrick Lanier, TJ McWilliams, Nuke Hayes, Tyler Williams, I would not be surprised if 2 or 3 of those guys hit the transfer portal, which is extremely disappointing because I think they have a ton of talent to be some big names in the Big Ten. But if some of those guys hit the portal and you lose Daniel Jackson and Elijah Spencer, you need Le'Meke Brockington to step up, and Brockington has to step up for this wide receiver room, or it could be a major concern beyond this season. So we need to see more from him. Then you flip it to defense again. I'm going Justin Wally. Now, Justin Wally is our best cornerback. He will be playing on Sundays. He's a stud. When he is at his best, he can shut down the entire boundary side and help your secondary have less to worry about on their plate. That said, Justin Wally was credited with 2 missed tackles in the Illinois game. He has been credited with a couple missed tackles over the last few games, and including, I think, one of the missed tackles on that big broken run touchdown that Illinois got on their first touchdown score of this game. So overall, he's got to clean up the missed tackles, but also he was targeted 10 times in this last game, gave up 6 receptions for 84 yards. That number has to come down. He is a guy who erases sides of the field, so we need him to erase it once more and stop these opponents' receivers from being able to get any production on us. More PBUs, more big quick hits, less overall production for the wide receivers. Finally, the last player I think we need to step up is Marcus Major. Now, this could be more on lack of opportunity rather than anything Marcus is doing. That said, we need Marcus Major to hit big on his limited touches in order to encourage more touches for him. Why does that need to happen? Because not only is he a bruising back that's of a different variety for this Gophers team, but him getting a few more touches takes the extra hits off of Darius Taylor's body, and we need Darius Taylor to be 100% go for Penn State, for Wisconsin, and for any bowl game opportunities the Gophers are going to have. So especially after we saw him sustain multiple minor injuries in that Illinois game, we need Darius Taylor fresh, which means we need Marcus Major stepping up and producing more. That's my thoughts on today. We're diving into Rutgers tomorrow, so hopefully I will see you there. Row the boat, Sky Go Gophers as always, and please don't forget to hit subscribe.